All right, well, we have an exciting speaker today. He's no stranger to the Baha'i Center. He's been here several times. Iraj Khodadoost has been very active in the community, especially the greater community, dealing with people of other faiths, and been active in interfaith activities for a number of years now. And I think some over 20 years perhaps. But more recently he's been particularly involved with the Unity Church, Unity North and Marietta area. But at any rate, he wants to share with us some ideas and thoughts about the faith and its interaction and individuals' interactions with people of other faiths, adopting a place of worship and affiliating and with people of other faiths in a spirit of fellowship and concord. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to speak with you, Mr. Iraj Khodadoost.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Allah. I'm short, so I'll bring it down here. Before I share with you my remarks, let me begin by sharing a couple of passages from the Holy Writings, from the writings of Baha'u'llah, on the topic of associating with people of all faiths. This is from tablets of Baha'u'llah, a tablet called Glad Tidings, and in these glad the tablet's name is Bisharat actually. Baha'u'llah says this is the second glad tiding. He says, it is permitted that the peoples and kindreds of the world associate with one another with joy and radiance. O people, consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendship and fellowship. Thus hath the day star of his sanction and authority shone forth above the horizon of the decree of God, the Lord of the worlds. Did any word or any passage or sentence from this writing kind of surprised you? It is permitted that the peoples and kindreds of the world associate with one another with joy and radiance. It seemed like previously it was not. For many years it was not. There were some group were called the chosen people, and we are the chosen people. We need to do away with the other groups, right? Or it got a little better, and in later revelations they said that we from this faith, that particular faith, are brethren, or from one another, but the others are outsiders, right? So that's why Baha'u'llah says it's permitted. So in this dispensation, once and for all, it is our responsibility, our duty, right, to associate with people of all faiths. That's a commandment from Baha'u'llah. And then in another tablet called Tarazat, Baha'u'llah says, they that are endued with sincerity and faithfulness should associate with all the peoples and kindreds of the earth with joy and radiance, inasmuch as consorting with people hath promoted and will continue to promote unity and concord, which in turn are conducive to the maintenance of order in the world and to the regeneration of nations. Blessed are such as hold fast to the cord of kindness and tender mercy and are free from animosity and hatred. So again, he says, if we want really to bring unity and oneness to the world, we must associate with all people, right? So this is our commandment, which is emphasized over and over again. And of course, we probably all remember this important passage where Baha'u'llah says, this is the changeless faith of God. Right? Eternal in the past, eternal in the future. And then he says, you deny one, you deny them all. So again, he emphasizes that for us as Baha'is, all religions are really one religion, revealed to humanity through time, progressively revealed, right? As we understood more, he told us more. As we understood more, he told us more. And he tells us, as one of the passages that one of our friends here read, let me read that one more time. We all heard it, but let's hear it again. Consort with all men, O people of Baha, in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. If ye be aware of a certain truth, if ye possess a jewel of which others are deprived, share it with them in a language of utmost kindness and goodwill. If it be accepted, if it fulfill its purpose, your object is attained. If anyone should refuse it, leave him unto himself, and beseech God to guide him. Beware lest ye deal unkindly with him. A kindly tongue is the lodestone of the hearts of men. It is the bread of the Spirit. It clotheth the words with meaning. It is the fountain of the light of wisdom and understanding. So again, it is our duty, our responsibility. But here, in this passage, he told us something more. We as Baha'is do not proselytize, right? That is the only way. Come this way, otherwise you go to hell. This and that, right? We don't do that kind of stuff. We share the message with utmost kindness and love. If they accept, fine. If not, we leave it alone. You know, there are many progressive churches and organizations which are proactive. And by this proactive, then they go and demonstrate, right? But then some of them demonstrate in a confrontational manner, right? We don't do it this way. We share with love and kindness. If they accept, fine. If they not, we leave it alone. At some point, God will help us, and we'll help them, right? We need to do our job. We also remember the first principle, the first teaching of the Baha'i faith is independent search for truth. That's why we do not impose our thoughts. We only share, right? And in sharing, we also tell them that you and everyone is the son and daughter of God, the same God. So we ask them to search for themselves. That's why proselytizing in that sense is actually forbidden in the Baha'i faith. We do not proselytize, right? We just share these thoughts. So with all of this said, all the important holy writings shared, I'd like to share with you some updates on the path that I have tread in the past 20, 30 years in general, in the last 5 years in particular, which means putting these thoughts into practice. I'm doing my best to put these thoughts into practice. And by practice, I mean that I need to go to different synagogues and mosques and churches and sit there reverently and, if asked, share some of the Baha'i thoughts, right? Because this is all part of the same truth, right? That everyone is in a different path, and it's all part of the same truth. And so love them, be with them, appreciate them, because they're all worshiping the same God, the same truth. And then practice it. Practice the oneness of humanity. Practice the oneness of religion. So I've been more on this path in the past 5 years than I was even before that time period, the past 20, 25 years. So a few exciting things happened that I shared with Vincent and Deborah maybe. And so I'm going to share that exciting thing with you. One of these churches that I have been associating with is the Unity Church. Some of you are familiar with Unity. And this one's called Unity North on Sandy Plains Road. And their wonderful, beautiful Reverend minister is Reverend Richard Burdick. I saw him actually a couple of days ago, and he says that, are you going to any Baha'i Center for a talk? I said, yeah, this Sunday I'm going to a Baha'i Center. And he said, what are you going to talk about? I said, I'm going to talk about you. So he may see this video, and we'll be talking about Reverend Richard Burdick and his beautiful church, Unity North on Sandy Plains Road. So I've known him for about 5 years. I've spoken maybe 7, 8 times at this church. One time I said that your church and your principles are so similar to Baha'i ideals in terms of harmony of science and religion, oneness of humanity, oneness of the essence of all faiths. They all consider them as part of their faith as well. They actually have posters from all religions on the wall. Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, trying to teach the congregation they're all chapters of the same book, like Baha'is. They also had a huge poster on the wall saying that one God, many paths. So I really bonded with this group and tried to associate more and more with them. And as I got to know them and the minister and the loving congregation, they invited me a few times to talk about the Baha'i faith. And so we really bonded. And last time that I spoke in that church was actually last August. And he called me and said that it's your turn now again, and so come and do the service for our Sunday. So it's just basically their service. And he's also one of those preachers that doesn't wear a cloak or any of that kind of stuff. And he's just a regular person who comes and talks. And he says, I'd love other people to come and talk. And it not be always me talking. So I invited me to talk, but then 1 week before that date, he called me and said that, why don't we do it together? He wanted it to be a joint sermon. So that he would say something, I would say something, I would share. And actually 2 sermons, they have 2 sermons, one at 9:15, the other one at 11:15. So both times. So I practiced the first session, I got better at the second session. And so he would say something from the Bible, and their up-to-date Bible is Unity, which they had. Their leader was Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who began this denomination, if you could call it denomination, actually in 1893, the year that Baha'i faith was introduced to the U.S., the year that we had the first Baha'i in the U.S., 1893. So that's why their principles are very much closer to the Baha'is. One Baha'i friend said that, this isn't right. They're taking our principles and they call it their prayer principles and so on and so forth. And my response was, this is the spirit of the age. You should be happy that they're talking about harmony of science and religion. You should be happy that they're talking about search for truth, oneness of mankind, oneness of the essence of all faiths. You should be happy about that. Now, this was our principle. Why are they talking about it? So much the better. Anyway, I'm following up with the story. Now, this was last August when we had the joint sermon comparing the teachings of Christianity, the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and then the teachings of the Baha'i faith. And so it was a wonderful, loving conversation. Then, shortly thereafter, every time I saw Reverend Richard, sometimes we go to lunch, sometimes go to his office, sometimes I go to the Wednesday devotional. They have kind of a Wednesday devotional. He would always come back and say something. And that's something that he told me in a loving manner, in a loving, concerned manner, was this. why are Baha'is secretive? I said, Baha'is are not secretive. He said, I seldom see any Baha'is or hear about any Baha'is anywhere. In the past 7-8 years that I've been here, or previous to that, I seldom hear about the Baha'i faith. Okay, I would tell him a few things, our history, our background, what we do, the classes that we have, and so on. But apparently he wasn't convinced. Next time around, I said that Baha'is seem to be kind of reclusive. They don't come and share the teachings of Baha'u'llah with humanity. This is one man's perception. One man is open-minded, but his perception is that we're not open enough in sharing our thoughts. Is there any truth to that? Is there any truth to that?
Allah. Yes.
There's some truth to that. So you agree with Reverend Richard? I'll tell him that. You agree with Reverend Richard. And what he was telling me, and he keeps telling me, he says, the same way that you come to our church, ask these Baha'i friends to go to all different churches, different synagogues, different mosques. Talk to people, talk about the teachings of Baha'u'llah, the oneness of the humankind, the oneness of the essence of religion. You must go out and do it. So this is the message which is coming from Reverend Richard that I'm sharing with my Baha'i friends, which is what Baha'u'llah is telling us, right? You must associate with people of all faiths in a spirit of amity and concord. Otherwise, it's just a few of us sharing it with ourselves, the way he thinks of it, in a reclusive manner or in a secretive manner. We have to go out everywhere. That's what the faith wants from us. That's what Abdu'l-Baha did. That's what Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the faith, planned all his life. The different plans that we had, particularly the 10-year crusade. Then he told us, get out of your homes, go to different countries, go to different villages across Africa, across Asia, and America, and Europe, everywhere, and share the message of Baha'u'llah. So this was what he was saying. So I left it alone when I wrote him a letter explaining our history, our teachings, the way we try to do it, and that we are a few and we are learning and we'll try to do our best. So I thought that's the end of it as far as Reverend Richard is concerned. But no, Bicentennial came. He came a couple times to our house with his wife and a few others. Invited him to a couple of our devotionals and our holiday celebrations. And this wonderful man sent me a heartfelt email on January 2nd, just one day after the New Year, like the 2nd or 3rd. And see what he said in that. That's what I really want to share with you. He said, Iraj, I have a plan. He said, I have a plan. Okay, what is the plan? He says, I want a huge Baha'i conference in my church. He says, I want a huge Baha'i conference in my church. I want all Baha'is in Atlanta to come to my church and associate with the people of unity. As I said, they have a huge banner on one God, many paths, and they really believe in that and they try to practice it. And he hasn't seen much of Baha'is, and that's what he is. So that's an invitation. And he gave a date. I want the weekend, the last weekend of September, which is September 28th, 29th, and 30th. Make a note of it. To be the Baha'i conference in my church with all the Baha'is of Greater Atlanta to come and show up. And for us to really associate. And he says, the whole weekend of Friday and Saturday and Sunday is yours. You guys plan it, and I'll come and observe. Okay? Okay, we'll do our best. We'll do our best. Then you send a follow-up email and saying that this is the way I think it should be done. Okay. So I am Vincent working on it now. I want a committee of 10 members, 5 Baha'is and 5 from Unity. So we want the committee. We're working on the committee now. To meet for at least 6 months every week to share thoughts and ideas of Baha'u'llah's teachings and unity teachings and how we can really unify and cooperate. So he wants us to go there for 6 months, every week, at least 5 Baha'is and 5 from Unity, to plan for this great event at the end of September. Okay, so that's part 1. And part 2, 2 months before the event, he says, he has planned it in his mind in this way. 2 months before the event, I want you to publicize all across Atlanta about this conference of Unity and Baha'is coming together to practice love and unity. 2 months before the event. So that's part 2. Part 3, I want 1 month before the event for Baha'is to have a class introduction to the Baha'i faith in my church. Every week to totally plan it and to introduce it the best you can. And then hold the event on September 28th, 29th, and 30th. All I could do, I just wept. I received this email from this man that I've known for 5 years, associated with him. And that's what he said. So this is what Baha'u'llah told us, that if you Baha'is, if us Baha'is don't do it,
he would raise up them.
Say it.
I'm paraphrasing, but as you was talking,
He would raise up.
thinking. He would raise up
No, others.
Yeah,
I was
he
calling
would
others.
raise up others.
Others to do it for us. That is the spirit of the age. There are thousands or millions of people who are walking on the path of Baha'u'llah because that's the spirit of the age. Some know it and many don't know it. Abdu'l-Baha says it in SMR's what's the name of his book? Baha'u'llah and the New Era. I think it's page 180, 181. That he says, there are many who may have called themselves Baha'is for 50 years. But they may not understand what Baha'i faith is all about. And there are many who have not even heard of the word Baha'u'llah. But they understand the message of Baha'u'llah because this is the message of God for this age. Right? So we are aware of it. We want to do something about it. And that's what we can do. So that even made me more excited what this gentleman is saying. With the help of our counselor and our executive board members, we are setting up this committee of how to approach it, how to do it, and how can I say it? How to really do it in a solemn, beautiful, and befitting manner, because we have to do it. We are not talking about the word of Baha'u'llah and Baha'i faith. We have to do it in that fashion. And so pray for us and pray for each other in order for this thing to really take off beautifully. And every one of you, in any community that you are, please promote it and make a note of those dates, September 28th, 29th, and 30th, to bring it about. Let's see. We have already had a class, by the way, for the leadership, a 6-hour class on the essentials of the Baha'i faith for the leadership of the church. It was last year, or 18 months ago, something like that. And so all of the board of directors and a number of others came, and we had that class already. Also, one of the first things that I did maybe 3-4 years ago, that's what I did in the first church that I was so excited that they're so close to the Baha'i faith. I presented them with a framed poster of our house of worship in Chicago. And so the minister hangs it in the front of his office on Baha'i house of worship. And so in their church, I made a presentation for the community that our Baha'i houses of worship have 9 sides, representing the 9 major religions of the world. And the idea is, And Baha'u'llah wants us to build these kind of house of worship in every town and every city. And so I made that presentation and gave that poster, and the minister himself, he held it up. It's taped. My friend here taped it, held it up, and then put it in front of his office. And the idea, I said, is that come through any door, worship in any manner that you want, pick up any holy book that you want, and just read it, and come together. That's the idea. So what else have we done with this wonderful church? So this is, of course, one of many churches that I associate with, but this is one that bore this beautiful fruit right after the bicentennial on January 2nd or 3rd of this year, and we're working on it. And along those lines. So let me just open it up now for a little dialogue and discussion of your challenges, the things that you do, the things that you want us to do together, collectively or separately or whatever. What are the challenges when we start associating with people of all faiths? What helped me most was going back to the talks of Abdu'l-Baha, Promulgation of Universal Peace. And many times, for many years, before each Sunday that I went to any of these churches, I just read one of the talks of Abdu'l-Baha. You know, he says, look at me, follow me, be as I am, Abdu'l-Baha, right? He gives us everything we need to know. Which means not only we don't pressure, not only we don't talk loud or talk at people, we just be normal in sharing the message of God. That's the message of God with humanity. And not only not pressuring, and that's I wrote to my Facebook page with regard to this friend of mine, Richard, the minister of Unity North. I said maybe the reason why he doesn't wear the cloak and he doesn't speak loud at his congregation, he thought it's very normal. Maybe the reason for this is that he does not, that's the way I put it. He said that Richard does not talk about unbelievables. And because he believes in the idea of harmony of science and religion. Therefore, he doesn't need to shout. That's the way I got it. And that's the way in different churches I see that there's some preachers really shout and really want you to believe, for example, that Jesus went up to heaven and after 3 days he came back and this and that, or things of that nature that we as Baha'is say that these are allegories to the higher truth or the truths, and we should not take them literally. And I noticed that he never talks about those things because he also believes that they do not make sense logically and scientifically. So some of these churches have come to that realization. So, or the world was made in 6 days and God rested the seventh day, or such and such lived to be 950 years old. And so all of them have deeper meanings, right? That Baha'u'llah has explained, many of them in the Book of Certitude. When he says that Hud lived to be 950 years old, what does it mean? The duration of the manifestation of prophethood, the effectiveness of his teachings was 950 years. Not that he lived to be 950 years. So anyway, going back again to the question, when I started reading Abdu'l-Baha, when I started reading Abdu'l-Baha's talking to some of the ministers like Portal to Freedom, what's his name? Howard Kobe Ives, the minister who became Baha'i. How did Abdu'l-Baha talk to him? He sat down and listened to him. He didn't even talk to him. He loved him, he hugged him, he sat down and listened to him. Many times I've seen some of my friends who come, and I've even spoken to some of those churches. We become so excited that we don't listen. We just talk. And that's not good either. We have to go to many places. We have to sit down. We have to know them. We have to go out for lunch with them. We have to love them. And then as occasion arises, we have to talk to them. So I want to, that reminds me of another kind of a little different experience. And that is the experience that I had with a minister of another church, whom I love and revere, but I never invited him to any of our interfaith gatherings. And so I called him and I said, such as so-and-so. And by the way, he's one of those gentle, beautiful souls who has helped many Baha'i refugees who have come to this country, himself. And so I called him and I said that we have an interfaith group, people of different faiths get together, and once a month we would love for you to come and join us. And he thought about it. He has known me for 2-3 years. He said, no, thank you. And then he says, because I know you all go to hell. So that's that extreme. But then the thing to remember is that what would Abdu'l-Baha do? I said, fine, and I said, goodbye, I will see you. Then I called him back a couple of days later, after I reflected and prayed about it. And I said, would you come and have lunch with me? And he thought about it and said, yes, I'll come have lunch. So we went out for lunch. I listened to Abdu'l-Baha again. I went back to Portals of Freedom. How Abdu'l-Baha did not talk but listen. Can I really behave myself? It's hard for me. My wife says you can't behave. You just keep talking. I said, I will really behave myself. I won't say anything. To the extent possible, I will say nothing. And I'll just listen. We went to lunch. It was 1 o'clock. So all the customers had left. It was 3 o'clock. The man kept talking. He was talking about his love for Jesus, his love for his faith, his love for service to humanity, and kept talking. It was past 3 o'clock. I had invited him for lunch. It was past 3 o'clock, and he said, oh, I have an appointment at 4 o'clock, so I have to leave. But I enjoyed it so much, I have to pay for lunch. So he paid for lunch. So I had invited, but he says, no, I enjoyed it so much, I haven't. So we have to become better listeners as well. Abdu'l-Baha meant, I think, and what I was trying to say, that we first need to listen and see what the needs are, what the questions are, and then gradually and succinctly and lovingly respond. That's of course what we have to do one at a time. And then also, as you point out, we need to deepen. We need to deepen on the verities of the faith in order to see how we should respond. And there is nothing wrong with saying that I don't know the answer. Let me look it up, or let me ask a friend, and then next time we come, we'll talk about that subject.
Or study it together. Like, let's find the materials and let's
Or
read
study it together, or find out together. And also, but at the same time, we need to be cognizant of the needs. It needs to be gradual, but then it needs to be also truthful. I have a Baha'i friend who I think had the misperception that because we want to be gentle and kind, then if they have some prejudices against women, even a particular denomination or group, or have some prejudices, we won't talk about it, and we'll try to accommodate it. So if they wear a veil, my wife should also wear a veil because this man is a kind of believer who would be offended if your wife doesn't wear a veil, or things of that nature. No, we will stand up for our truth, but then gradually, kindly, gently and don't appease prejudice and superstitions in order to satisfy their needs in that sense, I think. That Baha'u'llah wants from us total humility, total submission. It is His word. It is His teachings. And we're just the vehicle to share. We've had some examples, fortunately not many, examples of Baha'is who are very prominent, very knowledgeable, but at some point they became arrogant. They thought that they know this stuff, so they're the ones who are teaching. And Baha'u'llah immediately puts a stop to that kind of attitude. No, we don't want any part of you. If you're the one who are pretending to be Baha'u'llah or God, no. We are all servants on His path. And we all know that Baha'u'llah calls the seventh valley is the valley of total, nothingness, the absolute poverty and total nothingness. If we can reach that level of total humanity, then we have reached God. Otherwise, we have a long way to go. And in that respect, Baha'u'llah says for some of us, it may take a second. And for others, hundreds of thousands of years to get there. So we're all on that path. And we have to pray and hope that we would pass this path as quickly as possible, so that we can be of service to Him. We're all teaching in our own ways, just going to work. Somebody asks you, who are you? I'm a Baha'i. And then it puts us in the framework that I have to behave even better because now I'm representing Baha'u'llah and all of that. So we're all trying and we're all doing it in different ways. And it's good that many people are doing it in different ways and not one particular way. There's not one particular way. Thank you for that comment. Any last comment? Anybody? Thank you so much for having me with you today. Oh God, my God. Oh my God, unite the hearts of Thy servants and reveal to them Thy great purpose. May they follow Thy commandments and abide in Thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve Thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of Thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by Thy love. Verily, Thou art their helper and their Lord.